Before we get started, here are a few things to keep in mind. The first step you're going to encounter when doing the power test is calibrating your start and end positions. We're going to cover this in great detail over the course of this video. Just want to highlight that at the beginning. The second thing to keep in consideration is having the athlete test the range of motion prior to beginning the test. That way you're making sure that they're operating within the parameters of Proteus and not running into the end ranges. And then third, this is a test of peak power. So make sure you give it everything you got. If you don't think that you reached your peak power or you messed up during the calibration of the set, you can hit the restart feature on Proteus and that will bring you right back to the beginning of that movement so you can repeat it and try it again. Once you get the handle attachment installed on the machine, making sure that it is securely fastened, what we're going to do is we're going to run through the test following the instructions on screen. I'm going to give a couple of coaching cues for each one. So the first one we're going to be doing is a chest press and horizontal row. We're going to hit the big blue button on the screen. We're also going to be able to control everything from the kiosk on the Bluetooth controller via the big blue button. So we're going to confirm that we're doing the right side first, as I'm a right-handed athlete. For this test, we're going to do it in split stance, and we're going to start the move back in a row position. We're going to push forward, pause at the front. You hear the machine beep. We're going to return to the start. That way now we're going to know that the test is calibrated and we're ready to perform. Okay, we're going to do explosive movements, pausing at each end range. Making sure not to overly rotate and hit the housing of the machine, but staying within the parameters that we set at the beginning. Next, we're going to do the classic movement, straight arm trunk rotation. This one is going to be important in setting it up. Once you get acquainted with how to set this up, it's going to be fairly easy, and the same premise on creating these invisible fields for the start and end position carry on with every measured test movement that you'll do on Proteus. So the way Proteus is going to register my core is that we got a line down the center of our body. We're going to be testing my right side core first. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to start over on the left-hand side. Once again, we're going to make sure that we got plenty of range of motion. So make sure your athletes aren't standing too far back or too far forward to where they might hit the front of the machine. So just have the athlete get a feel for that movement first. And then when you're ready and they're ready, you're going to start on the left-hand side, hit your start button, move over to the other side, pause. Once again, following the directions on screen. Once you're ready to start the test, you're going to do an explosive movement to the other side, pause, since we're just doing the straight arm trunk rotation variation. Okay. And that's going to be registering both sides at the same time. I mentioned that we were starting on the right. However, once the test knows that we're doing this specific movement, it's going to also then register us on the return side of things. So we're actually registering right-sided power and left-sided power in this movement. Now, we're going to go to the straight arm plyo trunk rotation. This one trips people up a little bit on how to start. However, you're going to set the test up the exact same way, that first rep, to let the machine know which side you're doing. And then we're going to change up the movement just a little. You'll see here in just a sec. The athlete's staying in that same position. We're going to set this movement first, starting on the left, moving to the right. The big difference here is we're going to come to the middle, and this is where we're going to start the test at. So what the athlete's going to do then is they're going to load into the left and explode to the right and come back. Load again, reset. Next, we're going to do the lateral bound. A couple things to keep in mind here. Since athletes are going to be doing a jump variation through an upper extremity implement, it's important to keep your hands on the handle close to your chest. Typically, we'll lay out cones or some tape on the floor to give the athlete kind of a trajectory in which to jump. This helps keep them in the spheres. A lot of times kids will drift forward or backwards, and we'll have to restart the test. So once we start in a second, I'll make an error on purpose so that you can see how that works. So I'm gonna start out on my right side, hit the beginning button. I'm gonna jump to the left, pause. We're not worried about the landing so the athlete can come reset again. I'm gonna jump back to the right, and then you would begin the test. Let's say the athlete jumped too far forward. When they jump across again, the machine didn't beep. So as a coach, you could steer them back on direction. However, a lot of times the athlete will get lost. In this case, this is a great time to restart the test. So what we're gonna do is it comes right back to that beginning screen for this movement, and we gotta run through that setup process one more time. So we're on that right. We're gonna jump to the left, pause, jump to the right, and this one we're gonna run through. Thanks everybody for joining. We get a lot of questions about how this test is performed specifically, especially at CSP, and this is how we do it with all the coaching cues and or errors that we're making sure to look at.